I hereby call to order this meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors. Mr. Miller, it's my understanding we have amendments to the agenda this evening.
Yes, ma'am. We have an amendment to the agenda to include an action item to accept the $500,000 grant for the Ralph Bunch building. And that would need to be a resolution.
I move to amend the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. If comments relate to a specific public hearing item, we ask that you offer those comments at the time of the public hearing. And Mr. Dines, do you have our timer ready, sir? Very good. Anyone in the boardroom wishing to speak, please come forward and please remember to state your name and your address. Thank you very much.
Don Shelton, 9430 Ashburn Court. All I have tonight, I want to share with y'all the current Virginia code that was passed by the state last year regarding memorials and statues and how they're dealt with and how they're removed. I just want to give you a copy of it, and that's all I got to say.
Would you like to approach?
Yes.
Then bring it to me first, please. Yes, please. I'll make sure it is suitable to be distributed to the board. That's how we do this.
Appreciate it.
Okay. And each one is in the plastic. Okay. Thank you, sir. And yep, we'll make sure to put one in Mr. Bush's mailbox upstairs. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you guys for the work you do for King George County. And I have opinion about this law, but I'll keep my opinions till a later time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Anyone else here in the boardroom who wishes to speak, please come forward at this time. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to online public comment. Mr. Dines, do you have anyone waiting online who wishes to speak? No. All right then. And members, did anyone receive any correspondence from citizens wishing to have it read during public comment? All right, I will now close public comment and we will move on to reports of members of the board. Mr. Granger, would you start us off, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I know Mr. Shelton just left, but thank you. I'll say thank you to him for providing the information. I'll take a look at it. I do appreciate it. Friday, September 10th, attended the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 remembrance event. That was at Dahlgren. I appreciate the invitation to come and remember those who did die in that terrible incident. So thank you to the base for that invitation. Wednesday, September 15th, I joined I had a joint planning meeting with the Planning Commission, and the Berkeley gave a good presentation, started our overhaul of the zoning ordinances. So I appreciate staff's time and providing that, as well as the Planning Commission to work with us to hold a joint meeting so we can start that discussion and get moving and hopefully get that done. I know it's not going to be real quick, but as quickly as we can. And then today, the 21st, I had a Commonwealth executive meeting. Was to discuss the upcoming Commonwealth meeting that's going to be held at the Mary Washington Dahlgren campus. It's going to be on November 9th. Starts at 8 a.m. I know all board members are generally always invited, so if anyone is interested, please feel free to come as well. You're always welcome to all of the Commonwealth events, I know. So, but this one's local, so it's a little bit easier to get to. Some of them a little bit further out. But they'll be on the 9th, and I think we'll have a good slate of presentations. And I believe Mr. Minor will be presenting a little bit of information about the county at that. So I appreciate Mr. Minor being willing to do that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granger. Mr. Stonehill.
Thanks to Mr. Shelton. I'll be looking at this tonight when I get home or tomorrow. Wednesday the 8th, I attended a Rappahannock River Symposium in Fredericksburg where there were many keynote speakers from different lettered agencies, and basically everything was to protect the Rappahannock River, the Potomac River, and all rivers that empty into the bay, because it takes everybody to try to get our waters cleaned. And I wanted to say thank you for Friends of the Rappahannock, that's FOR, for putting it all together. Just want to mention that Friends of Rappahannock will be holding a free paddle next Sunday on Williams Creek. It's available for everybody. You can look at the FOR website for sign up and information. And hopefully it'll be a beautiful day people can enjoy. Thursday the 9th, I met with a group of folks having to do with the state's new Coastal Resilience Master Plan. It's basically a plan that the state's putting together to identify areas of flooding. And there's 2 areas in our region, which is Dahlgren and the Aquia area up in Stafford. And they're going to be holding public meetings. Hopefully we can get that scheduled. They were saying that the week of October 18th, they're going to try to get some kind of town hall meetings to speak to people. Hopefully we can get Dahlgren on their list of places to look at for flooding, because coastal flooding certainly affects all the water runoff and everything that we have in the county, in Dahlgren also. Friday the 10th, I also attended the 9/11 ceremony on base. It's a very nice ceremony, or not celebrating, but memorializing a terrible day here in the country that we had. But it was well attended and very nice ceremony to say thanks for all the people that couldn't be there for that. Sunday the 12th, I attended the Fraser Mason ride, the Some Gave All. This is going to be the last ride for the Fraser Mason. It was a beautiful day, great turnout. I never heard the exact number of bikes, but I was standing right there in the intersection, and when the first bikes came past me, it was 21 minutes of solid motorcycles coming into the parking lot. So don't know the exact number, but that was a lot of motorcycles. 15th, I also attended, like the rest of us, the joint meeting of the Planning Commission to look at the upcoming plan to redo our much needed ordinances with the Berkeley Group and the Planning Commission. So looking forward to that process. And finally, I would like to make a nomination for the TAC. I'd like to nominate Becky Stewart to the Tourism Advisory Committee. Becky and her husband, Slam Stewart, have a music studio here in King George where they do lessons of music, and they have a music group that they play with. So I would like to nominate Becky to serve on the TAC.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, which category would that be in?
That would be under Arts.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
And I'll just send you a quick, everybody, I just found out that she wanted to do it at 5:30, so I'll shoot you out a quick little bio to everybody to let them know, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stonehill. Ms. Bender?
Thank you very much. I would just want to make, I've attended a lot of the other events that my colleagues have, but I just wanted to do a personal message and promote Suicide Prevention Month this month. We had a death in our community, and it's touched me because I'm very, very, very passionate about mental health, especially for athletes and young people. And I just wanted to everybody that being a mentor and being good coaches is very important to me. And I knew the person personally because my son played with this athlete, and I just want to reach out to his family and understand that I'm even more passionate about taking care of our young people. And please tell everyone you love them and your family, and be passionate about everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. I want to start by thanking Mr. Shelton's not here, but thanks for coming out to provide your public comment. I'll just read a few highlights. I also attended the 9/11 memorial service at Dahlgren Parade Field, and they did an outstanding job of presenting a very dignified ceremony. The next day on September 11th, I attended the Caledon State Park 9/11 Remembrance. I want to thank the King George VFW Sergeant Nicholas C. Mason Memorial Post 12202 for inviting me to speak about my own experiences on 9/11 as a young Arlington County police officer. I left that event to attend the Rotary Club of King George Dahlgren flag planting event. I want to thank Rotary for another beautiful display of American flags across along Route 3. And I particularly want to thank Mr. Chris Clark, our Director of Parks and Recreation, for opening the building and participating in the flag planting, as well as Mr. Chris Miller, our County Administrator, for coming out to help us plant the flags. Thank you so much. I too, on Sunday, September 12th, attended the Some Gave All Foundation's last ride at King George High School. Thank you to the Fraser and Mason families and volunteers for putting on this event for 15 years. The mission continues. Please visit their website to learn more and donate. I wish to make a board recommendation to the Circuit Court. I wish to recommend the appointment of Mr. Mark Varney to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And want to point out, touching on Ms. Binder's board comment, we currently have 2 vacancies. We have 3 seats that we can appoint on the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. Here is a link. Well, I have a link on my board report. I'll post it online. You can direct dial Michelle Runyon at 540-899-4400 for more information. I spoke to her earlier today, or to find out when the next meeting is. They meet monthly and they were meeting tonight. So you can sit in at a meeting to see if it's something that you would be interested in. Here's their mission statement. Rappahannock Area Community Services Board is dedicated to education, recovery, treatment, and wellness of Planning District 16 residents affected by mental health and substance use disorders and developmental disabilities. While we have seen an extensive focus on physical health in terms of illness prevention and treatment during this pandemic, I believe we perhaps have fallen behind in the areas of mental health and substance use disorders, particularly among our youth who have had so much to deal with during our ever-changing expectations of them. These too are medical conditions and should not have the stigma that is frequently associated with them. So if you need help, please talk to someone. Or if you know someone you think needs help, please talk to them so they know others care about them. King George High School extended family, you are in my thoughts and prayers. That is all I have. I'll now take a motion for the consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. County officials report. Mr. Golsky, do you have anything to report to us this evening, sir?
Yes, it's exciting news. There are 2 Columbia Gas notices actually that have come out that go to all the jurisdictions in the state. The first one that is in the package is order for notice and comment to amend a company's system expansion plan and increase a charge. But my understanding is that Columbia Gas does not come into Loudoun County at all. It once was planned, I believe. Okay. King George County, there I go again. And the second one is, and that has a notice period of October 8th, and it'll be posted on the website. And then the second one is a notice from comment for the SAVE plan, which is investments to accelerate the replacement of certain components of its gas distribution system and infrastructure to enhance safety and reliability. And that has a comment period through October 15th. And both of those will be on the website if anyone is interested in comment. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Golsky. Any questions from members for Mr. Golsky? All right, very good then. We will move on to our public hearing. We do have one public hearing this evening. A proposed amendment to the King George County Cigarette Tax Ordinance, Chapter 14, Article 9, Section 14-207B. The King George County Board of Supervisors will now hold a public hearing that has been properly advertised to receive public input regarding a proposed amendment to King George County Cigarette Tax Ordinance, Chapter 14, Article 9, Section 14-207B. I will first ask for the staff report. I will then open the floor for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and address before you comment. Upon completion of public comment, I will bring the matter back to the board for consideration. The board may or may not take action tonight, depending on information received during public comment. Mr. Golsky, will you be handling this matter for us as staff this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
The proposed amendment is a change of the date that distributor, or actually anyone with a tax obligation for cigarettes and needs to file a report with Commissioner of Revenue, it has to do so currently under the statute, under our ordinance by the 5th of the month. That's presented a problem with timing for a lot of individuals, and the Commissioner of Revenue has gotten a lot of requests to extend that statutorily by the enabling statute in the state. You can go through anywhere from the 1st of the month to the 20th of the month, and the proposed date is to change it to the 20th of the month, which the Commissioner of Revenue supports, to make a collection of these taxes actually easier. And that is the only change in the ordinance, and everything else would be readopted as the same.
Thank you, Mr. Golsky. Any questions from members of Mr. Golsky before I open the floor for public comment? No questions? All right, I will now open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to comment for this public hearing may please come forward and do so now. All right then, seeing none here in the boardroom, Mr. Dines, do we have anyone online who wishes to provide comment during this public hearing? Thank you. And members, did anyone receive any written statements regarding this matter? No? And staff, did any of you receive any written statements regarding this matter that need to be read for public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Very good. I will now close the public hearing on this matter. I will bring the matter back now to the board for consideration.
I move to approve the amendment to the King George County Cigarette Tax Ordinance, Chapter 14, Article 9, Section 14-207B as presented.
Second.
Again.
Any further discussion? Mr. Stonehill, did you want to add? No? Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because I know you were on the cigarette tax committee, so.
It's just a scheduling thing for their folks, that's all.
All right, very good. Then we have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Golsky. All right, presentations and reports. GWRC Regional Greenway Study presentation. We have Mr. Ian Allis from FAMPO presenting this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Cup cut new. If you don't mind, I'm going to take this off. I find with my strong South African accent, if I wear the mask, then you probably will struggle to hear what I'm saying. So I hope this is good with everybody. Oh, thank you. Good evening. My presentation tonight is to just explain some of the context behind the Greenway feasibility study, which was completed or about to be complete. Actually, it's not complete yet. To give you some of the context, the background, why the study was commenced, and where we are in the process. So just a bit of an overview. A grant for $20,000 was awarded to GWRC in August 2020 by the Virginia Department of Forestry. That grant was awarded before my time. I joined FAMPO as the administrator and what the GWRC likes to call the Director of Transportation Planning, because I wear these two hats. I joined in the 1st of November last year. When I arrived, this grant had already been awarded and had begun. I, together with my colleague, Kate, took over the administration of this grant. So it wasn't our grand idea to come and develop this project. We inherited this project, and it fell to us and our team of staff to do the research and to work with a consultant that had been appointed to complete this project. The grant was to develop a system, a mapping of a vision for the future regional greenway system. So that's the context of the grant. We needed to develop a method for prioritizing planned trails to utilize future funding sources as they became available and hold meetings to carry out the necessary work. A stakeholder group was brought together from locality planners, community organizers, trail advocates, interested citizens, government agencies, etc., from the 5 localities that make up the George Washington Regional Commission, which is Caroline County, Spotsylvania County, Stafford County, King George County, and the city of Fredericksburg. And they had 3 workshops to discuss what really the needs were in the area, what the vision would be in the future for connecting parks and greenways and cycle paths and that sort of thing, to then develop some way of prioritizing future development of greenways and to start working on a map of how exactly we could connect all of these different cycle paths, greenways, and so on in the region. And that really was the brief. What is a regional greenway network? The Greenway network aims to connect existing trails and plans for trails by identifying the missing links for future possible integration. And that really is the point of the study. The Forestry Department awarded funding to do a study to say, where are your trails? Where are your parks? How can you integrate them so that you can move from one trail to another trail because they're connected in the future? And so this really is a study to try to work out how to do that. The map that has been developed through these various workshops with all the role players is a proposal of how to connect all of the parks, the greenways, the cycle paths, etc., that are able to be connected in some sort of unified whole. And the point about that is that all forms of transportation, whether you're walking, cycling, riding a bus, driving your car, don't end at the border, even international borders. The US border with Mexico, the road doesn't suddenly stop, or Mexico decides to build the road on the other side of the border that doesn't connect to the road that's in the US. It would make no sense. And so in the same way, the attempt has been to try to say, where are the existing trails and how in future could they be connected? And that's what has been done over a period of months. The goal is an interconnected set of trails that links the George Washington region as a whole. Adoption of this plan does not obligate localities to provide funding or to complete specific projects. And I need to say that very clearly. I think through the various workshops, maybe this hasn't been communicated very well to everybody concerned. The study and the proposed way to connect these trails does not obligate any funding to anybody, from anybody, by anybody. And the study is going to be completed shortly. And then it is for the localities and the George Washington Regional Commission to decide to accept it or not. It's a study. It's not a bill. It's not a funding proposal that you have to sign off on, so that if you agree to this idea, now suddenly you got to come up with $1 million to build a bunch of stuff. There is no obligation whatsoever by anybody at any time. The attempt is just to try to say, if we're able in future, we'll try to collaborate on connecting these trails. That's the point. The study is for long-range planning purposes, and there's also no timeline to complete this. So if you think that these rough trail ideas are okay, no one's going to come back and say to you, including the Forestry Department, hey, you haven't built the connection. The study is complete. There's no ongoing obligation. There's no body, either GWRC or the Forestry Department or anybody else that's going to police any implementation. There's no policing of implementation, and there's no requirement that anybody puts up any funding. The plan will be submitted to the GWRC board on the 25th of October to complete the study. I'm right about that? Yeah. And the point of accepting the study is that if you were to go and apply for grants, or GWRC was to go and apply for grants, or FAMPO was going to apply for grants, or anybody else, if you have a study supporting the concept, you immediately get put on a better footing when you apply for the funding. It's the same with roadways. If you want a new intersection rebuilt by VDOT or by somebody, and you say, but this study done by X recommends that we have another turning lane, you're more likely to get the funding if it's supported by a study. So this study would assist if you wanted to apply for funding for trails in the future. So it could be helpful. The final report with a map showing the regional trail concept is due to the Department of Forestry on November the 1st to close out the grant and to officially end the study. And I think that's the end of my slides. So the point of me coming tonight is not to argue for a particular pathway or a particular trail link or a particular set of issues. It's to try to just clarify the context of the study, to make sure everyone understands that it is a study. It's not a funding approval or application, that there are no funding requirements from anybody. The goal of the study is that it seeks to integrate trails that exist in a way that makes sense. And so I suppose that on the ground, the most important part is at the boundaries of your county with the other jurisdictions. If you can try and get those connection places to be at the same spot, the trails will connect. If you have to modify some of the internal trail details, well, you know, the study is not going to stop you doing that. It's just a study, after all. But it is an attempt to try and make the borders work, to make the connections work between the 5 jurisdictions, to show that an integrated trail system can be built around the greenways that exist, plus some new ones that could be added. And those then go through the normal process. You first have to decide you want it. If you want a particular path, you then have to apply for some funding through whatever methods you believe can be applied for. And then the study would help you by supporting that application and saying, here's a good reason to do this. The county next door, the city next door are on the same page. So it's really my hope, as somebody who inherited this project and worked with staff to bring it to conclusion, that we can find a way to get all 5 jurisdictions, which doesn't always happen, to finally say, hey, this seems like a good idea to connect our trails. We like the study, we'll support it. We can't obligate anybody to any money or anything, but we think the general idea is the right thing, we'll support it, and all 5 jurisdictions finally continue to talk to each other about possible future projects. There are certain officials from certain jurisdictions who've got private little plans to develop certain trails. The study does not have anything to do with particular individual programs by individual staff member from individual localities. It's an attempt to be an overall plan that just says, we'd like to build an integrated plan. This is kind of how it could work. We hope you could support something like this. So I'm happy to take any questions, but I don't want to belabor the point. I think I've made the point of what the purpose of the study is, and that there's no obligations other than to say, we think the routes look roughly like a good idea. That's basically where it is.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Questions from members? Mr. Granger, you want to start, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you coming out, sir. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the I did understand that there was no funding request. So I appreciate you, though, stressing that point as well. So thank you for that. And as well as clarifying the fact that it's not obligating a particular path. I'll be honest with you, the western part of the path from the railroad trail to the Stafford border, that's where I had my biggest qualms with the proposed route. And so it drew some concerns for me, still draws some concerns for me based on some situations going on. And so I would like to see that changed. I know you're saying it's just a study, but I don't even want it in there. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't want it in there like that.
If the study's final report is not complete and hasn't been handed over for anybody to approve yet, so if there is some small adjustment we could make to fix that, I'm sure we could ask Carrie to make an adjustment to the plan, just inform the other role players that, by the way, we're going to change this thing, and I'm sure that can be done, because really the point is the people across the boundary of the county on the other side need to build the other side of a connection. So if you think there's a slightly better spot, we could shift it. I mean, we can easily adjust it. It's not cast in concrete. It's a bunch of planners and a bunch of cyclists and a bunch of kind of environmental people in the region who are all professionals in their own right who've said, this looks like the best way to do it. But there is sometimes local knowledge which those people might not have. So you might know that it's going to become problematic to put the trail in a certain spot because of some other thing that we don't know about. And I'm sure we can make some adjustments. If you have a better proposal that would link the trails, please do suggest it kind of soon.
Yes, sir.
Because it's not finalized and we could fix some of those things before.
Who would be the POC to provide that input to?
So you can send it to my office or to Carrie. She has got her email address on there, but I'll work with her to accommodate that. I'm sure we can. I mean, if it's impossible, I'll tell you, but
I appreciate
I'm
that.
sure there can be some adjustments made. We just took what we have seen on the ground. We asked jurisdictional officials to chip in and to give their opinions and ideas and all that sort of jazz across all 5 jurisdictions. And that seemed at the time the best thing to do.
It's not a bad way to go. And I'm not opposed to that idea of going about that way to do it. It just, yeah, based on certain information, I would like to avoid the route that was proposed. So.
Great, just pop us an email.
Yes, sir.
We're certainly as a staff not going to die in a ditch on any particular route. We want to try and get something that the 5 jurisdictions can agree on as a rough idea of where the trails could go, so that when you do apply for the funding and you build up to the border, there's someone on the other side who says, okay, we'll connect it to our thing.
No, I appreciate that, and I like the idea of the connection. So I get that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So yes, I appreciate it, and thank you for working with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granger. So I would just add, recalling the discussion that we had with staff's presentation, the alternative suggestion was a shared use path down Bloomsbury from the trailhead, existing current trailhead, down Bloomsbury to Route 3 proper and headed west to the Stafford County line. That was the other suggestion. If you want to include that in your feedback, that's entirely up to you. Okay, thanks. All right, Mr. Stonehill.
Just want to say thank you for coming out. I don't really have a whole lot of questions. I think it's a great idea. Due to the pandemic, which who knows when that's going to slow or whatever. Outdoor recreation is it's huge. I mean, people are trying to do everything. When I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Fredericksburg, it was right on the trails in Fredericksburg, and it was just nonstop people. And if we could join our trails all the way down to Dowrin, and all the way up to Fredericksburg and everybody's trails, I think is a great idea. And thank you for your work, and thanks to DOF for their funding. You do have a big job ahead of you trying to get 5 jurisdictions to work together. But I think it's a great idea, and just move on forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We've managed to get them to agree on some funding applications where the money does count for our smart scale applications. So we've gotten on a number of them 2 jurisdictions to sit and say, fine, we'll both sponsor this one, which I was told was going to be really difficult, but we've managed to get everybody, I think we've got everybody on the same page, all the jurisdictions. And that's That's great. And you've got some local applications which you're working on, and we'll help with those as well.
Thank you, Mr. Stonehill. Ms. Bender?
Always thank you for your help, Ms. Gibson. We always appreciate it. One suggestion I do have is for Mr. Granger, anyway, has some feedback, is to funnel it to Mr. Miller, especially because if we need some GIS mapping to put the information on there to send to Mr. Alls. Just a suggestion.
That would be great. If you all agree on the particular alternative, then that's easy. Then we just check that Stafford or whoever's other side of the border can make that work as well, and then we just put it in the map. Done. And end of problem. That's easy. If you have 4 different places where you want to put, that'll be more difficult for me to work on, because I wouldn't want to get in between all of your different opinions.
So Ms. Bender, where are you on that suggestion? Because they have a timeline here, and we need to see what consensus of the board is tonight.
What date would you need it back by? It's October 25th is when you can present it, but when do you need it by?
We need early October. Could you give us an answer?
What date? Just give us a hard and fast date.
So if we have another public meeting on October 5th, if we have it
tell us the next day
for
would that
some
work?
discussion, and then Mr. Miller can contact you the very next day.
The 6th. If you
And
could tell us on the 6th which route you'd prefer, provided Stafford or whoever's on the other side. I assume you're talking about the Stafford border. So if Stafford is okay with that, we'll write it in and get it approved straight away. So the 6th, would that be okay?
yes,
6th of October?
because I have not yet weighed in, and I was just attempting to see if we could resolve this evening and not leave you hanging. But I too share Mr. Granger's concerns with that particular area of the plan, and would prefer to see an alternative route such as the one that our staff had suggested. Yep, and I have concerns for the same reason. And again, I represent that district as well, so I do have to express those concerns.
No, that's fine. I mean, if you have a discussion and come to an agreement, that solves our problem, right? Provided Stafford can do that, it makes it very easy. So if we could chat on the 6th and I could get that feedback, then I'll chat to Carrie and we'll put it in. She's going to write the rest of the report in the meantime so that it's ready, and then we'll make that one change and then it's good to go.
Definitely.
Very good, thank you. And hopefully we'll have an odd number of people here that night too. And yeah, we'll be.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Here. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Add something. I really appreciate Ian and Kate coming. And in my previous life, I was an executive director of a regional council of governments. And I can tell you that these folks work on behalf of the region, and they don't represent particular jurisdictions. It's a very hard job in terms of making sure that you take all the input from the various players, the various partners. But I can tell you without a doubt, and I'm as firm as I can be, the federal government, the state government, all the funding partners look for regional partnerships. They don't like individual applications as much as they like partnerships that talk about regions, especially in the transportation field. So what they're doing is exactly the kind of thing that will help King George out in the future on any of these kind of opportunities. So I think that just needs to really be emphasized. And I think that y'all have done a great job in terms of, providing your input and the concerns that you have. And that's what you have to do. It's a dialogue. It's very important that they hear what you're saying, because they've got to go back and work these things, and they got to help you out when when there are these funding opportunities that come down the pike. So I appreciate y'all coming. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allis and Ms. Gibson, for coming out this evening. All right, moving on to revenue sharing resolution of support. And Mr. Minor, can I assume you're here on behalf of Economic Development and Tourism, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair. Kim is out sick today, so I'm going to be filling in for the best I can. So this is a fairly straightforward process. You can tell Kim did this because there's transitions on this, and I'm not that fancy. So this is for the middle school left-hand turn lane, phase 2. Revenue sharing program provides additional funding for use by the locality to construct or improve the highway systems within that locality. The project includes a left-hand turn lane from Route 206 into the middle school parking lot entrance at the southernmost entrance. The resolution of support, which I believe the board should have had before the meeting started, allocates funds to the $280,000 to the CIP to support the project costs. The total estimation of the project is $438,726. The funding for this project will be available fiscal year 27 and 2028. So I believe, Madam Chair, the only thing
Questions from members? Go ahead, Mr. Granger.
So I'm sorry, the funding for the project will be available 27, 28. When would the funds need to be obligated?
So they need to be they need to be obligated in our CIP, I believe, this year.
This year,
and
okay.
I believe continue to be carried on until the project is requested.
So are you asking for us to make an obligation tonight or as part of our CIP process?
As a part of the CIP process, but to adopt the resolution
Tonight.
this evening. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stonehill? Ms. Bender?
I just have one question. I just want a clarification. The southernmost entrance, is that the one near where the baseball fields are? That general direction? No, it's the other entrance. Okay.
One down,
Okay. I just wanted
the
to.
one we drive into.
Oh, the one we drive into every day to
Drop
drop off. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
it's
That's
that
all I-
one.
Thank you. Just clarification.
Yeah, so that's going to be southbound on 206, a left turn into the middle school parking lot. And it'll be a designated lane with markings, because right now it's wide there, but there's a lot going on and it's really not marked very well. It's kind of a hot mess. Okay, so if you don't mind, so there was a placeholder in the action item, but the resolution wasn't in the packet. So I would like to read the resolution before I entertain a motion, just so it is in the public record.
So just one update. This application does need to be submitted October 1, which is why we're sort of bringing it to the board today.
And so for the board's awareness, to file an application in the SMART portal, whether it's Smart Scale or revenue sharing, any of VDOT's grant programs, you must have a resolution of support from the locality to be able to do so. So this is something they would need to be able to do this. All right, a resolution of support for an application for fiscal year 2022-2023 Virginia Department of Transportation VDOT Revenue Sharing Program funds for King George County Middle School Left Turn Lane Phase 2. Whereas the King George County Board of Supervisors desires to submit an application for an allocation of funds up to $280,000 to be matched through the Virginia Department of Transportation fiscal year 2022-2023 revenue sharing program, and whereas the proposed project involves the addition of a left-hand turn located on Route 206 at the entrance of the King George Middle School at a total estimated cost of $438,726, and whereas the King George County Board of Supervisors hereby supports this application for an allocation of funds up to $280,000 to be matched through the Virginia Department of Transportation Revenue Sharing Program. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the King George County Board of Supervisors hereby agrees to commit to their share of the total cost in the amount of $280,000 in accordance with the project financial documents. Be it further resolved that the King George County Board of Supervisors hereby grants authority for the county administrator to execute project agreements for the approved revenue sharing project proposal identified herein, adopted this 21st day of September 2021.
I move to adopt the resolution of support for an application for fiscal year 2022-2023 VDOT Revenue Sharing Program funds for King George County Middle School Left Turn Lane Phase 2 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? So I just want to add, I think that when this comes time to do this, this would be a locality administered project, just like the first phase would be, right? This would not be administered by VDOT.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we put it in the CIP, we would likely have to put in the full amount, and then VDOT reimburses. I believe revenue sharing is still a reimbursement program. So we would have to do it and then file the papers that we did it, and then VDOT would reimburse us for it. And is revenue sharing still a 50-50 match? Is that why the amount is 280 in case there's an overage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Minor.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, action items 9-14, Department of Finance, amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget by reducing the amount for the Rappahannock Juvenile Center invoice. Ms. Hahn, Director of Finance, welcome, ma'am.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. At the last meeting on September 7th, I came before you and asked you to approve a transfer of $151,372.97 from the general fund balance to the Rappahannock Juvenile Center budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 to pay a true-up invoice. Our auditors were here that week, and on advice from our auditors, they want us to accrue it back to last fiscal year. So I'm asking first for you to authorize the county administrator to reduce the Rappahannock Juvenile Center budget for 2021-2022 by the $151,372.97 and return those funds to the general fund balance.
Any questions? Very good, then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, ma'am, we'll move on to your next item. 9-15, Department of Finance, amend the fiscal year 2021 budget for the true-up Rappahannock Juvenile Center invoice.
And so as presented at the last meeting, during budget generation, the Rappahannock Juvenile Center presents King George County with our share of the operations cost for the center. This amount is an estimated amount based on previous years. The total operating budget for the center for 2020-2021 was $3,788,902. King George County's portion was 6.066% or $229,835. However, during fiscal year 2020-2021, the county had a total of 40 children for a total of 655 days in the center. After the calculations were completed based on the totals for all localities, King George percentage increased to 13.4, or a total of 507,712.87, resulting in a shortfall of 151,327.87. And in the previous one, I had transposed my numbers and hadn't double checked them. That's why it's different from the previous resolution. That shortfall takes into consideration that we also had 126,550 remaining in the fiscal year 2020-2021 operations budget because we had gotten a credit that was given later in the year towards last year's budget amount of 126,525.86. So I'm asking the board to authorize the county administrator to transfer $151,327.87 from the general fund balance to the Rappahannock Juvenile Center budget for fiscal year 2020-2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, Ms. Hahn, 9-16, Department of Finance, authorize a transfer in the Children's Services Act, CSA fiscal year 2021 budget from department budget to cover a deficit in the budget line.
Yes, the approved budget for Children's Services Act for fiscal year 2020-2021 was $2,707,878. Their actual expenditures were $2,900,147, resulting in a difference of $192,269. We do have sufficient surplus funds in other departments, and so we ask that you authorize the county administrator to transfer funds from other department budgets to cover to the CSA budget in the amount of $192,269 for fiscal year 2020-2021.
It's moved.
Second.
Any questions or any further discussion?
I assume
Granger?
this was, I'm sorry, thank you. I assume was based also off the recommendation that we should go off that fiscal year budget. Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. All right, next item, this was our amendment to the agenda, 09-16.5. Department of Economic Development and Tourism, acceptance of the National Park Service $500,000 grant for the Ralph Bunche High School roof project. Mr. Minor, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board. So I'm just going to start with the board report and read the recommended action. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism recommends that King George County's Board of Supervisors accept the $500,000 grant for the preservation of the Ralph Bunche High School and amend the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget and appropriate the funds accordingly. I'm happy to take any questions regarding this grant for this process.
Any questions?
No questions.
No? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the grant as presented by Mr. Minor.
Second.
And we need to, Mr. Minor, can you read the language again, please?
Yeah, that
'Cause we
would help.
don't need to just accept the grant. We
you.
need to accept the grant and appropriate the funding to the 2021-2022 fiscal year and amend the budget,
By amount, the amount, what was the amount?
500,000.
Just 500,000. All right.
So this is a grant where the construction can be executed over a 3-year process. So it's not like that can be done within this fiscal year. We can have it done within.
Understood. Could you just read it one more time for me?
Sir, yes, sir.
It's going to give so moved. It'll make it easier. I apologize.
To accept the $500,000 grant award for the preservation of the Ralph Bunche High School and amend the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget and appropriate the funds. I put accordingly.
And appropriate the funds.
Right.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Minor.
All right, moving right along, County Administrator's Report, Mr. Miller. There we go. There it is. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Dines.
Sorry. So we are ready on the Confederate Monument. Update the finance department and the evaluation team that looks at the various proposals and bids. They have reviewed it. This is a responsible bidder. We will bring this to you on the October 5th meeting, and we'll address the concerns that Mr. Bush had, Supervisor Bush had, and that you all have also talked about. I have provided Mr. Golsky and Mr. Britton the information that Mr. Shelton brought up, so they'll be able to weigh in on that regarding the possible need for a public hearing. So they'll have that information. If there's any questions, just interrupt me at any time on any of these.
So let me just clarify for everyone. So for October 5th, we're going to carry this on the agenda as presentations and reports.
Yes.
So everybody is clear. It's not scheduled for public hearing. It won't be anything like that. We'll carry it under presentations and reports, and it'll be staff's opportunity to bring to us the bid that was submitted and legal's chance to answer any relevant legal questions that we have, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. Yes, Ms. Bender.
So would it be an action item or just?
It will not be an
informational?
action item,
It'll be an
presentations and
informational
reports. Yes, ma'am.
presentation.
Okay, and then my second thing, just wanted to make sure that I'm sure you've already looked into it, the public use of funds for, I mentioned.
That's something that we'll have to address as well. I got to go back, when you initially brought this, when this thing was brought forward, this is before my time, how was that all organized? Was it something that you committed funds? It's my understanding you did not commit funds, but that you indicated that you wanted to just do a proposal to see what came back. And if I'm incorrect on that, let me know, because that's how it's been presented. So that we would have to come up with a proposal that would fund this. Is that correct?
So my recollection was that it was up to $40,000. However, no source of funding was committed.
Right. So
That
what
was
we
my
will-
recollection.
we
Does
will
anyone have a different recollection?
No, that's what I remember.
Okay.
So we will include that in our presentation.
Thank you very much.
And that should be in the minutes. That should be somewhere in the minutes. And if it's not in the minutes, I would respectfully request that staff review the recordings, just so everybody is clear on how that was put out. Thank you very much.
Okay. The next item is Ms. Kupka had received a recommendation from the veterans of the VFW about a Veterans Parade on the 11th of November, which is Veterans Day. And I guess the question is would you want to allow this? I don't know that they were asking that the county participate in any way. I think it was more of a group of folks wanting to organize an event, and they may need sheriff's department to be there for traffic control and things like that, possibly the fire and rescue. But I don't know that they were asking for any money or anything like that. Do you know any more?
So they were not looking at doing this for this year because it would be really hard to pull it off at this point. They couldn't get a permit from VDOT to close the road or any of that kind of stuff. So they were looking at maybe next year doing this, and they wanted to know what I thought. And I said, let's ask the board what the board thinks. Is this a good idea? Is this something worth looking into or not? And then we would go from there. So I would love to hear my colleagues' thoughts on this. Mr. Granger, you want to go first?
Sure. So when you say a good idea, you mean a good idea for them to be running or the county to get involved or any of the above?
We don't know what it would look like right now.
Okay.
I think it'd be a nice idea to have a Veterans Day parade. I just don't know what that looks like and if we have staff resources to support it.
I'd be willing to entertain, investigate and see if we could support it. Yes. Absolutely. Don't want
Thank
to
you.
commit though and say we'll definitely do it.
Yep.
Just
Mr. Stonehill?
I'd like to know a little bit more about it and have them do the research. I mean, who was it that contacted you all?
It's Commander McKenna of the Nick Mason VFW.
Okay, the new one. For next November.
Yeah, it would not be for this year.
Right, with VDOT. Yeah, I would like to see it, see what they could do to get everybody involved into it.
Okay. Ms. Bender?
I have no problem. The only question I have is, in part of that research, the cost of the fire and the police, because I know the Fall Festival includes that in their budget.
So what I can do is, I can get in touch with this gentleman and then get some more information and get my staff involved in looking at it. And then we could have a presentation sometime and get you all to sign off on it or, continue to work on it. So we'll do that. We'll follow up.
Sounds great. Thank you.
The next item is a Ralph Bunch update. So obviously good news on the grant. The other piece of information, though, I would indicate is that the September 8th deadline came and we got one proposal. The proposal seems to be about a commercial venture. So I guess that, really where we are on this is we probably need to circle back and have what do you want to do with this building? If it's a commercial endeavor, then you have a bid, but you might want to approach this in a different way. If it's going to be a museum, if it's going to be a community center, then, we obviously aren't interested in a commercial venture. So I would think that, we can talk about this. Maybe the perfect time to talk about it would be through the CIP process, because it is identified in your CIP because of the grant. And there's I think other facilities under Chris Clark's presentations about other buildings. And so maybe that's a good opportunity. As you can see, I've got a reminder up there about next Tuesday night, the CIP presentation. So maybe that's a time to talk about Ralph Bunch. And Ralph Bunch is obviously a big community issue. So that may be a thing where you entertain some public hearing or some more public input. But we're just going to sit on it until we get some more direction in terms of what you want to do with that. I don't know, Donna, do we need to respond? I know we're checking this particular individual's proposal, but we have how long of a window do we have to?
Right now, it is with the evaluation committee. and
Correct.
the Evaluation committee is looking through it. Those matrices were due back to Ms. Turner, one of my procurement specialists, today. And we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday morning to look at it and decide what recommendations or where we want to go with it. I'm not sure, I forget in there how long their proposal is for, but we will be looking at it more in depth Thursday of this week.
So do you think with that, your review committee would have a recommendation for Mr. Miller that we could have a more informed discussion than at the September 28th CIP work session?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because my other concern is if someone responded to this RFP, do we not have a legal obligation to at least take a look at it and have that finance do the review as to whether it is responsive or not at a minimum?
I believe that's what they are doing currently.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
so-
what this process is.
Okay, I don't want us to just not,
No, we're
Yeah.
going through, it was a responsible bidder
okay,
by the procurement regulations. And so we proceed with the next step of the process, and that will be completed Thursday. So we will be able to discuss it more at the work session.
great. Sounds like a good plan, Mr. Miller.
Okay, there's two other things on there. So the COVID update, again, we meet regularly, a team of us meet regularly and discuss issues with COVID, especially the counts of employees that are affected by COVID and are out, and we are at 16 right now, or people that have actually gotten COVID and are out, tested positive. The majority of the folks that we do have are more people that have been exposed or have had a potential exposure. And so they're either out because of, a child or a parent or a relative. And so that's that's good in some respects, because it means that we're not having many that are actually getting that. We have a 12.5% positivity rate. I believe last meeting, I think I reported a 13.6. So that has gone down a little bit, but obviously this region is in a very high level. And when we were watching that, I think the one thing, and I have shared this with our chair, Ms. Kupka, I was on a phone call or a Zoom call with fellow county administrators last week, and it was mentioned that Senator Kane's office had been discussing the fact that their belief is that the vaccination mandate that President Biden put in place through his executive order that will affect private companies of 100 or more is something that could make its way to local governments. And it may be that, the Department of Labor and Industry would be the agency that would deal with that. I just tell you that because obviously that's a game changer if it does happen, because then we're going to be making some major changes to how we do things around here. As you recall, I believe that executive order said you either are vaccinated and can provide proof of that, or you must get tested weekly. And so therefore there are some other issues that would present, because there are people that have exemptions. There are people that, for religious or for health reasons can't get the vaccination. And so therefore, what does that mean? Well, if they have to test every week, the issues become who pays for that. So there are some other issues that we're working around, but, if things change, if we get some information, obviously, our legal team is on top of it as well. We will notify you, and if we have to have some kind of a special meeting to memorialize this or to put it into effect, if that's what we have to do, then we'll let you know. But right now, we aren't in any kind of a mandate situation. We obviously, as I said, if somebody's not vaccinated, we encourage somebody to wear a mask. They're not required to wear a mask. I want that to be clear. And then we also are, like I said, we have modified our the testing requirements. We used to require 2 negative tests to return to work. We're now just doing it based on symptoms and time. And so, a person does not have to go get multiple tests because it was running into a problem. So just to let you know that. The last item I would mention is we currently put on your agenda packets reports from departments, and they're always kind of at the end of the month. I'd like to start kind of splitting them out so that you're getting department reports on each agenda. And I may, in fact, ask that, depending on the length of the agenda, obviously the length of the meeting, I may ask a department head to make a report. I think what Ms. Hall did the last meeting was very good, and I know that Chris Clark could probably do a very lengthy presentation as well. Come on, but other departments have as much information to share, and I just think that we want to definitely give you as much information and provide you as much detail about what's going on in our departments as we can. So I was going to start breaking them up and maybe call on 1 or 2 every now and then to give a verbal report. But that's it. I'll answer any questions. Oh, one more. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. As you remember, I heard some of you talk about the participation in the joint meeting with the Planning Commission. If you've got any stakeholders you want to add, or you want to suggest some removals, because we have some duplications in there, get me those. I know I've gotten 2. If you have any that you want to give me, give them to me tonight or give them to me tomorrow, because I'm meeting with Louis Panconi from planning, and then we're going to convey those to the Berkeley group. So trying to keep on their schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other questions from members regarding Mr. Miller's report? All right, then with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to VA Code Section 2.23711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provisions of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding fiduciary and reporting requirements of public bodies and officials required by statute, regulation, and or other laws, as well as audit requirements. I invite the county administrator, county attorney, deputy county attorney, Donna Hahn, because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of topics to be discussed pursuant to VA Code Section 2.23712F.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are in closed session. Is there a motion?
I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
Second.
Each member so certify?
I so certify.
So certified.
So certify.
So certify. We are in open session. Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn until September 28th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.